Great. Okay, so again, guys, okay, DPO, digital portfolio, and again, we're going to cover, or when I say cover, it's really, it's probably the wrong choice of words. It's really, I guess, me helping you guys trying to come up with your own personal branding to help you with your portfolio, and again, help you, with, I guess, your career moving forwards, right? So our focus for this class will be, you know, coming up with some sort of positioning, okay? Working on, I guess, your brand, knowing what your target market is, and how you're going to do the messaging for that target market, right? And again, last week's previous or the previous week's challenge, and I think it's a really good job from everyone. Again, it's not necessarily, there's no wrong or right answer for this, right? The idea is for you guys to just practice your strategic thinking. That's really it. So I just wanted you to practice your strategic thinking. Some of you had some really broad ideas that need to be, I guess, refined. Some of you have really good specific ideas in terms of what your strategies are for your personal brand or your portfolio. Okay, so that's good. Again, what we're doing is we're going to now start refining and start really defining what your strategy and what your, I guess, your approach is for developing your own personal brand. Okay, and now again, a lot of people, a lot of branding professionals will say this to you. If you don't define your brand, other people will do it for you. So, meaning if you don't grab hold and define your brand yourself, it's going to be other people that will define you. So this is where, some people will say, oh, that person is too silent, uh, or that person only knows this thing, or that person only knows that thing. So other people will now end up, defining you rather than you defining your brand. So I want you to just think about that. And again, almost all marketing professionals will tell you that, right? If you don't take or grab hold of your personal brand, others will do it for you. Okay, and you don't want that to happen. Okay, so with that said, okay, for this class, what we're going to perhaps cover, and again, I mentioned, right, 4 key things. We want to define what, I guess, what skills and what is it that you want from your career, right? And then from your goals, we're going to have a look at how you can start positioning yourself, what reputation you want to, or what brand reputation you want to convey out there. We want to see what your target market is. Who are you trying to target? And lastly, how are you going to talk to that target market? So that's what we're going to focus on this first assessment. Okay, it's all about strategies. Okay, so for this class, let's concentrate on your position first. Okay, let's have a look at your target market or target audience. Okay, and then I'm going to issue your week 2 challenge. Okay, and that is basically just completing the stuff that we're going to cover today. Okay, so hopefully that's clear. And I think I'm already recording, which is, I guess, good. Okay, great. Okay, so let's start with, again, for the assessment 1, right? What you're actually submitting is just a visualization or just a description of what your strategy is. So that's exactly it. Just define what your positioning is. So how are you positioning yourself? Define what your target audience or market is, and then basically how you're planning to convey your brand and messaging to that people. Will you create, a LinkedIn page? Will you create your own website? If you do create your own website, what will you put in your website, or what will you put in your LinkedIn page, and stuff like that. But again, we'll deal with that as we move along. But you're just basically submitting something like that. Now that can be a PDF, but as I mentioned, right, it can be something visual, meaning I recommended a mind map. So for example, I have an example there. So again, this is not detailed yet, but see, it can be something like this. You just submit a link for this, and I can easily, see who you are, what your reputation is, what your target market is, and then basically how you define the target market and what strategies you'll end up doing. So again, it can be visual like this, or you can type it in, put that in, let's say, in a PDF. But I do recommend something like this, I guess. For some of you, for the UX students here, this is easy because you probably know how to use Figma, or you probably have used Miro before as well. Okay, so this is relatively straightforward for you guys. Okay, so with that said, let's have a look at positioning first. So let's talk about positioning. Okay, so basically, what is positioning for us? Okay, there's two steps or two things you need to do when you think about your position, guys. Okay, so you have to know who you are, right? What are your goals? And then at the same time, you want to know what you want your reputation to be, or how do you want to be seen by the people around you, or particularly from industry. So those are just the two things you really want to think about, right? Who you are right now, and what do you want, or how do you want to be seen by industry. So that's two things you need to think about immediately, right? Some of you have a solid understanding, especially for some of you who are already working or already, um, worked in the industry. You exactly know who you are at this stage, right? As a designer, as an artist, or as a professional. But some of you who are still, I guess, delving into your skills and stuff, maybe that's not clear, okay? So what I want you guys to do is perhaps use this class to start thinking about those things, right? So what do I mean, number one, by when I say, knowing, I guess, who you are, okay? So as I mentioned, right? I don't necessarily need to see this in your assessment one, because this is something personal for you guys. It's not like I'm going to mark you based off how you decide who you are. So this is something you might do internally, or this might be something that, but I do recommend you still think about this, right? So being able to define who you are allows you to perhaps think about what your final branding is, and what your preferred or what your ideal reputation is. So again, for this one, I actually ended up using Miro. And what I'll do is I'll just demonstrate this one, right? So let me just share this. And I think I shared that with everyone. So I'll just share this, and then I'll just copy board link, and I'll just paste this here. Okay. Okay. And I'll just press enter. Okay. So some of you can already have a look at that. But again, your first step, and this is step one. And let me just type that in. This is not a Miro tutorial at all. A lot of this, guys, is really PowerPoint stuff. Like you can select stuff, you can create, sticky notes, text, all of that, arrows. So I won't even talk about what you need to do there. But again, when we're talking about step one, knowing who you are, right? It really just means, figuring out, right, what your goals are. You can even remove some of this stuff. The most important part for me, education, yeah, that's something you might want to think about. What are your educational achievements, everything. But I'm more really concerned with maybe these things. So what are your goals are, as a designer, as a 3D artist perhaps, or as a UX designer. What are your goals for your career? Okay. So at the same time, I also want to know what your key passions are. Okay. And then what your key skill sets are, perhaps. What do you think are parts of your skill sets that are really unique, that not a lot of people are able to do? Work highlights and achievements might be a good idea to also have a look at. Okay, so for some of you who are using, for example, something like Miro, it can just be something as simple as, you know what? For some of you who are joining us and already have access to this, you can just start, adding a sticky note. So for example, I can just add in here, and maybe I'll just put in, let's say, a goal. So just an example, right? So maybe one of your key skill set, and let me make this smaller. I'll just have that. Jeez, don't even know how to do that. Font. There you go. So maybe what I'll do is, maybe one of your skill set is 3D. 3D is broad. Maybe it's something like you're really good at 3D sculpting. Okay, etc. And you can start adding that in, and maybe you think about what else you think you're really good at. So maybe I'll add another one. Maybe I'll just use the same. So maybe it's 3D sculpting. And then maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's lighting, for example. So you think you're really good at it. And then at the same time, you can also have a look at key passions, okay? Or things that you're really passionate about. That might be, advocacies, and that might be something that it might be a hobby that you really like. And again, this is important because, as I mentioned from last week, right? There will be situations where, for example, you're really passionate about scuba diving, or you might be passionate about, let's say, anime, and then it turns out that certain companies actually prefer their artists to have anime backgrounds. So that might be something really important or really useful, right? So again, one important thing here that you guys don't, I guess, think about, right? So just checking from the students joining us here and online, who among you guys are already working or who have zero, I guess, experience or haven't done anything in the creative industry yet in terms of projects? So couple, the students online, have you done anything already? Not yet? Okay. So students online, I'm assuming anyone here who's working, just checking. For the students joining us online, anyone here who's already working? Or already have, I guess, worked in industry, or what? It doesn't matter if it's creative or non-creative industry. Just checking if anyone here is already working in the industry or any industry. Okay, so we have a few. Okay, so why is it important? Because this is a common mistake. A lot of you, especially if you don't have any experience yet in the industry, a lot of you think that you don't have anything really special to share to industry. You don't have anything unique to be able, to share to industry. You don't have anything valuable to give to industry, or perhaps that other people find important, and that's really not the case. So what I want you to do, right, when you're thinking about yourself, I want you to think about what is it that you can actually contribute. What is it that, others might feel important. Okay? So any suggestions, any ideas here? So maybe I'll just put here intangibles, guys. Okay? So just an example here. Anyone with any suggestions in terms of if you're a fresh graduate or you're a student, what intangibles can you bring to an organization, for example, that, let's say, someone with a lot of experience or maybe who's worked in an industry already for a long time might not be able to do? Okay, so any suggestions in terms of if you're a fresh graduate, if you're young, maybe uh, you haven't done, you're fresh to the industry. What intangibles do you think you can offer to industry, or offer to clients, or offer to companies that are perhaps unique to your situation? Any suggestions? So I'll give you a few, okay? And this is quite common when you see a lot of fresh graduates who ended up getting, jobs immediately after. A common thing they'll tell you is, if you're a fresh graduate or a new student, they always talk about things like uh, fresh perspective. So maybe you can offer a fresh perspective in um, certain fields, or it might be, something like, did I just share this? Let me just Control D. Perfect. Other people talk about when you're a fresh graduate, or maybe you just started with industry, you have a lot of enthusiasm. Okay? So these are intangibles, right? Okay? Other suggestions. So again, intangibles, that can be a fresh perspective, intangibles. Anyone here I'm talking about yourselves at this stage. What intangibles do you think you can provide industry? So we have Kayla. So Kayla's idea is you have new learnings, so basically new techniques that perhaps, or new learnings or techniques, right? Or fresh techniques. I'll just call that fresh techniques. Okay? Okay? What else? Any hobby that some of you have that you think that are unique? or that can provide value to an organization? Are you, for example, so the students here, you talked about being an anime. Can I put their anime expert, perhaps? So are some of you anime experts? So are you really comfortable with the genre? Do you know different types of, I guess, animes with regards to, I don't really follow a lot of them, but do you have a lot of knowledge with regards to anime? Anime knowledge, for example. Okay, so you know the genre, you know the style. Okay. Anyone else with any ideas? Maybe let's just cover, maybe we can have some of the students here. Okay, Adam, trends and pop culture. So because again, you're young, I guess if you're young or you follow trends, maybe, or you're a millennial, maybe that's your unique perspective. You might be in a particular age group, or you might be, you know certain trends. So you understand new trends or unique trends. So the more specific you can add here, the better, because trends can be fashion trends, it can be anything, but I'll just put in unique trends, for example. Okay, and pop culture. So this is important, right? Because now you can find ways to separate yourself from other people. So for example, anime knowledge. Okay, I, for example, am a 3D artist, but I have zero knowledge with anime. That means if it's an anime project, I might not be as attractive to someone who's already an anime expert, right? Or knowledgeable with anime. For some of you, for example, have unique, let's say, understand trends. You really are knowledgeable with pop culture trends and fashion trends. That already gives you a unique, I guess, intangible compared to other people that don't. Okay, so these are important things. These are really important things that you want to put out there, right? So what I'm suggesting for the first, so when you're talking about positioning, as I mentioned, right? Think about who you are, particularly what unique stuff you're able to provide or you're able to give to a client, to your contacts, to your network, or to companies. Okay, so it might be work highlights. So what do I mean? For example, work highlights, it might be, or it might be just career highlights, right? Or achievements. Maybe you won an award, okay? Design award, okay? Again, highlights, right? It might be, again, not a lot of people have won design awards for anything. Maybe it might be, something like, I don't know, it might be you had, maybe as a student, right? You're part of, let's say, I guess I could put a lot more examples there, but I'm just basically suggesting that the first step you need to do is just perhaps look at yourselves, look at really intangible or really important stuff, right? That is unique to you. Okay, and then plug that in. Okay, so is this first step clear for everyone? Again, I won't put stuff there with regards to, again, there's no wrong or right answer here. It's basically you looking inwards and then thinking about, certain intangible skill sets that you might have, certain skills that you think are really, are really vital, really attractive to other people. It might be at the same time, think about what your goals are, okay? And there might be educational stuff as well. So let's say you, again, you might end up completed a diploma, for example, right? In Torrance, okay? So again, those might be important things, okay? Why is that important? So if you're not familiar, if for example you look into, let's say, getting work in other countries or other regions, oftentimes they will require a diploma for your specific, for your specific discipline to be able to be considered. Okay, so now you're already starting to get more attractive, I guess, compared to, I guess, other people. Okay, so is this first step clear? Just checking if anything here is unclear. So again, I'm not saying what you need to add there. I'm just suggesting that you guys need to think about, right? Who you are, just lay it out there, because again, we can start building what your preferred reputation is. Okay, so just checking with the students online if that's clear. So Adam, Brittany, Constantine, and Kayla, and then students here, clear as well? Relatively straightforward. Okay, great. Okay, so again, this is something I probably don't want you guys to, well, you can share it in your assessment one submission, but it's not that important. It's the next one that I want to see, okay? Because again, first up, right, knowing who you are. If you have a clear grasp in terms of what your goals are, what you think your intangible assets are, what you think your key skills are, etc., then you'll start building the next question, right? You'll start answering the next question. So the next question is, okay, what do you want your target reputation to be? What do you want your reputation to be? Okay, so how do you want to be seen? Okay, so I guess this is something that we can ask everyone here. Okay, so for example, do you want to be seen as a, so we have 3D students here. Do you want to be seen as a modeler that is very, I guess, enthusiastic with trends and also an expert of anime? Is that what you want to be seen as? Or do you want to be seen as a 3D, artist that can do everything? Meaning I can light, I can model, I can rig, etc. For the UX students here, do you want to see yourself, or do you want to be seen as someone or a UX designer that is good at everything, UI and UX? Or do you want to perhaps be seen as someone who's really good at research? Okay, so again, this is something I want you guys to think about. Okay, the easiest way, I guess, to perhaps think about this is to come up with what we call a mission or brand statement. Okay, so for some of you are familiar with branding or familiar with the mission statement, I'll just show you some examples. Okay, it has to be clear, right? So this is your target reputation. This is what you want others to see you as. Okay, so we'll start with, let's say, creating some sort of mission statement. Okay, so pretty obvious here. These are some really good ones. Okay, I understand that some of them are, already professionals working in the industry for a long time, but it's clear what their brand is and what their mission is. Okay, so this is their brand statement. So for example, for Daryl here, his brand is innovation is in my blood. I seek to find ways to adapt when needed and disrupt when possible. So see, for the past 15 years, I have been forefront in digital evolution, transformation. So it's really clear from Daryl's personal statement or brand statement what he's all about and what his reputation is. Okay, so he has a reputation of helping organizations evolve digitally and transform business-wise. Okay, and he's selling himself as a leader, functional operator that develops solutions and technologies. Okay, so again, that's his branding, right? He's branding himself as someone who can develop solutions, technologies, and create stronger customer engagement. Okay, so that's his brand statement. Okay, so that's his mission statement. Let's have a look at this one. Okay, notice that his mission statement is about being able to wear different hats. Okay, so that means he's flexible. He can wear different hats. If he needs to be a marketer, a designer, a salesperson, he can do that. Okay, so again, see, so he's a product manager who can cross-function and also wear different hats. Okay, so this is what we're trying to develop today. Okay, now again, this will evolve, but what I want you guys to do is start thinking about, right? What your brand statement is. Now, some of you want to use AI, that's fine. If you want to use something like ChatGPT to help you figure that out, unfortunately, I can't use it here. Totally fine, right? So if you go ChatGPT and maybe you can, ask ChatGPT, I am an introvert, for example, that loves baking and is good at um, UX research. Okay, can you create a quick brand statement? Okay, again, I don't recommend you use AI and just copy paste, because again, you want to say this with your own words. But let's just see what it says. Okay, so notice now this one. See, I have something like that. Okay, uh, maybe the more you ask it, the better. I want to position myself as a problem solver, though. Solver in UX. Okay? So, okay? There you go. Now, a lot of you don't really have experience yet, but you're enthusiastic. We talked about this, right? So some of you might not have that experience yet, but you guys talked about a few things already. So some of you talked about knowing new techniques, knowing unique trends and culture. Okay, so what we can do is we can leverage that. Okay, so some of you mentioned that you're really good with trends. Okay, so maybe I am also good with trends. Okay, pop culture. And some of you said new techniques, because I am a millennial. Again, this is not about just the age, right? Because I am enthusiastic and want to break into industry. Okay? So again, what we're trying to come up with, guys, and let's do it. Let's try to come up with some sort of mission statement. So what I want you guys to do is, if you have access to this, can you guys do this? Can you create a sticky note, put your name there, and give me your starting. So let's say this is Ivan. Okay, so that's me. Okay, and let me just lower this down. Can you guys create, again, this is not your final mission statement, right? But can you guys just create a starting mission statement at least? Okay, so put your name there. You can use AI if you want, but again, you want to say this in words that make sense to you and to also other people, right? So that's important. I can't increase it anymore. Oh, there you go. Okay. So can we spend just a few minutes? You can use AI, you can just type it in. Make sure you have access to this. If you don't have access to this, just let me know. So just checking with the students here. If you have access to that, just plug that in. Okay? I'll give you just a few minutes or maybe 10 minutes to come up with some sort of starting brand statement, right? Yes. Sorry? Share the link. It's in, geez. Have a look at Microsoft Teams. I shared the link there. So it should be in Teams. So if, okay. So guys, I'm going to give you just a few minutes. Again, for anyone who doesn't have access, just let me know. Yep. Okay. I'll put it in Teams. Okay. So I'll put it in Teams. This is the. It's in the DPO 100 729 class. I know that you guys are 728, but it's in 729. It's in week two, and then week two below, I think, let's see. I think it's, geez, it's actually, sorry, it's 728. So 728, and then it's a message there. So see, there's open Miro. So wind as well, just look at 728, and then just click on that Miro page. Okay. So I'll give you guys a few minutes to think about that. Again, there's really no wrong or right answer here. Just start with something, right? Did anyone delete what I had there? Oh, it's fine. Okay, that's all good. Uh, you can just put it anywhere, guys. It's no big deal. Okay, just just put it somewhere. It's tricky. You create a sticky note, plug it in there, lower the font size, maybe make that bigger, and then start typing. Okay, so put your name there and my mission statement. Okay. Yeah, feel free to use Chat GPT if you want. The idea is, let's see what you guys have in mind. Again, to be able to do this well, you also need to think about this stuff, right? What are intangibles? What are the key skills you really want to be known for? Do you want to be known for sculpting? Do you want to be known for, or do you want to be known as, again, another example is some students in the past want to be known as an empty canvas, meaning they can adjust to anything. That is a brand in itself. So see if you can plug that into ChatGPT, for example. You want to be an empty canvas where you can learn. So enthusiastic learner, for example. Okay. And you might discover, again, that might be a brand message as well. So I think mine, again, just spend like 5 minutes again, because again, the idea is you won't get the final one immediately. Okay, this is just for you guys to start thinking about that stuff, right? And let's see what you guys come up with. There's literally a lot of things you can think about, guys. So, for example, if you feel that your educational achievements is really front and center of who you are, so that might be something you want to include. So you can put in high achieving learner that wants to, stuff like that, right? So I'll show you a few more examples of some really good brand statements, right? So for example, this one, see, Elizabeth Morgan, top graduating HR student. So see, that's uh, uh, being a top student is really important for her. So I was awarded the title top graduating HR student at my college for my leadership. So I like that. The reason is she's not selling herself as an expert immediately. She's basically branding herself as someone who wants to learn, who is academically, excellent, and who has a passion for leadership and passion for learning, right? So see, So I spent hundreds of hours networking on my LinkedIn. So see that one, the term of networking is important. So networking is something she's passionate about. And again, I was sourced by Google Recruiter. Okay, and I'll sit under staffing team. So see, so I like those things, right? So she likes sharing insights. Okay, and she even mentioned that in my home office making lightweight clay earrings or watering plants. Now, some of you might ask, why is this important? Some people like to add that in just to, I guess, illustrate and just to send it out there that they're approachable and they're just a regular person, right? So it's an important branding strategy for them to be seen as someone who, who likes watering plants, basically an everyday person, okay? Similar to you and me, okay? Okay, so Kayla can't access that. Let's just, you might need to use your student email, or let me just do that again, Kayla, and then share that here. If you can share your student email as well, I can maybe share that. Uh, give access. There you go. Give access. There you go. So someone give access to Brittany as well. Okay. So hopefully you guys can already access that. Great. Okay, perfect. So let's have a look at Jeffrey, for example. So I like this. Okay, so again, this is not your final one, but for Jeffrey, he's basically his brand is to, he wants to be known as someone who makes it easy for users to find what they need through simple, engaging design. So simplicity. So you want to be known for your minimalist, simplistic design, if that's correct. Okay. And you want to help companies create intuitive experiences that enhance usability and engagement. Again, great starting point, but later on you want to really make that even more specific, something that's unique to yourself. I'm committed to achieving excellence in my studies, striving for high distinctions. So again, this is good. That means Jeffrey wants to really show it out there that your studies are important. When you do something like study, you always get high distinctions. So that's your branding, right? You're a high achiever. So that's what you want people to see, that you're a high achiever. Regardless if you're doing studies or you're doing UX work, you will do, high distinctions and high achievement is what you're passionate about. Discovery. I'm always, okay, so basically your showcasing or your branding or your messaging out there is you like to discover things and you want to learn and adopt. Okay. Now, let me just give you guys an idea why this is important. Because what you put here is what you actually want to start putting in your resume and in your messaging. So, for example, when Jeffrey says you want to be known as, again, you want to really showcase your academic excellence, that means, you might end up sharing the achievements you have in school, for example. Okay. Or you might, maybe a photo of you, if, for example, you graduated with this particular grade point average, maybe a photo of you showing that, or maybe, a photo of you. I'm not sure how we do it here, but if you're like a top student here, then maybe a photo of you with your lecturers can already be a good branding strategy. So those are things, guys, that, again, but that doesn't mean that this is, the final one. You can definitely start refining it. Even in the future, you can even start changing that, right? So let's have a look at Vitor. Okay, passionate, versatile 3D artist. Okay, so you're going to be showcasing your passion and versatility. Okay, um, we just have to define it. So you want to you want to not only be known as a 3D artist, but as a graphic designer. Uh, but again, we might need to really specify that, what you mean by 3D artist and what you mean by graphic designer. Are you talking about animations? Are you talking about modeling? Stuff like that, right? So I like that. I won't be able to read. I like that, but at the same time, uh, so my recommendation, right? Because we also want to, you mentioned that you come in as a fresh graduate, right? So what that means is, my recommendation with the branding is it has to be clear, I guess. Basically, from my perspective, you can come in as a fresh graduate, and you can use that, you can leverage that in your brand, that you come in fresh and you come in enthusiastic as well. So that's good. Passionate, versatile 3D artist. So what I'm saying is you also want to focus that you're also currently developing your skills, really enhancing your skills, your passion to really, expand your skills as well, right? um, there you go. Okay, so I like that. So you focused nature and Japanese culture. Oh, perfect. So I like that last quote. You again, nothing I cannot do, only things that I haven't learned yet. Okay, so there's a lot of things there that we can already start infusing into your, I guess, messaging and your brand. Okay, but that's something. So you want to specialize in, because you can say I specialize, but you can also say I want to specialize. Because if you, for example, already sell, my concern is if you sell yourself as a specialist already or as an expert in immersive environments, even if you just started, that might be confusing to some people. Okay, so again, basically what I'm saying, everyone, if you're not an expert at it yet, so for example, you are just developing your skills. Let's say you're just developing your animation skills. You're just currently, you've done 2 or 3 animations, or you've done 3 or 5 models. You're not an expert yet, but you don't have to sell yourself as an expert if you're a fresh graduate. You can just, I guess, in your messaging, you can say that you're still developing your skills, or you want to specialize at something, or you're enthusiastic at specializing in something. Okay? Because I guess my take is you don't want to, I guess, sell yourself as an expert yet. Uh, Otherwise, there might be some miscommunication there in terms of, uh, in terms of your messaging, right? So let's see, have a look at a few more. So Win, for example. So Win, you have a TikTok channel. So you're no, 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 that's good. So you're uh, a media creator, or is that actually what you do? You're also influencing. Yep. No, no, I mean that's the thing. That's something you can definitely add. So if you're, are you passionate about influencing? So I'd put it there, because there might not be a lot of 3D artists who are also influencers. But if you, for example, brand yourself as an influencer with 3D artist skills, or a 3D artist who loves influencing and, create content, or content creator, that can be a brand. So I basically what I'm saying is own the brand. If you want to be a influencer, just own it. Okay. So don't be shy about being able, doing that. Okay. So you have Nomad sculpting tutorial. So basically, Wind is already doing some content in TikTok with Nomad. Okay. And so I like that, right? So that's something, you know, uh, that's actually, I actually know a lot of people who do that. It's called product evangelist. So basically, there, even if you're not that good at it yet, but you evangelize other people on the product. So you say, for example, I really like Nomad. These are some Nomad tutorials, etc. That in itself can be valuable. So yeah, so that's good there. So that's a good starting point. Again, I won't be able to look at everyone else, all of it, guys. So let's have a look at one more. Kayla, for example. So Kayla is brand, I guess, is to blend creativity, strategy, and production to make digital campaigns come to life. So creating digital campaigns. Unclear though if you do it as a producer or you do it as a director when you say bringing digital. So basically you get clients and you can create digital campaigns for them. Is that correct? Just checking with Kayla if that's what you mean. So you can basically take a campaign start to finish. Okay, so that's your goal. Okay. So does that mean you also have a team or you can get a team when you need it? So just checking if you already have a team or you can easily get a team or you have a network already of professionals. Uh, so if you are, if you do get a client to create a digital campaign, you can come up with a team if needed. Perfect. So what I'll do is I'll if it was me, I'll sell that idea of my network. So I'm, either not necessarily I'm well connected, but your passion with working with other people, that might be something that might be useful, right? I'm not saying that it might be something you agree with, might be something you won't agree with, but see, the ability to work with other people and already have a network of artists that you work with, that has a lot of value. And that might be something you can think about as well. Okay, so guys, unfortunately, right, I'll have a look at some of that. What I do want everyone to do, though, is I want everyone to have a look at everyone else's mission statement, right? See if you can give them some tips. See if it's clear. The important thing for us, really has to be clear, okay? I really don't like things that are vague. So I just want it clear, guys. Meaning, if I'm a client, if I don't know you, if I'm a company, I don't know you, it has to be clear what you do, right? I don't really like, personally, some of you might disagree. I don't like, for example, you're branding yourself as a dreamer. The problem is I don't really know what dreamer is in a particular context. So the more specific, I guess, the better. So I just want it to be clear and relatable, I guess. Okay? Okay, so with that said, is this clear for everyone? Okay? Again, this is something you'll work on moving forwards, right? So let's have a look at Adam, for example. So modeler, cook, modeler, animator. So the reason why this is important is because if I'm Adam and I'm creating, let's say, my personal projects, I'll probably find ways to combine cooking and animation because that hits two birds with one stone. Okay, so it might, it might open up a lot of doors for me if I'm doing personal projects, right? And then internal thoughts, emotions, sensations. Great. So if you have examples of that, that'll be good. Okay? So you're basically branding yourself as someone who, you know, um, looks at, I guess, abstract, not really abstract, but really goes deep into, I guess, the psychology, I guess, very artsy as well. So again, there's a lot of things good to expand on, right? So again, I'm going to leave it there, guys. Hopefully you can add a few more things here. I do prefer that some of you comment on someone else's work because that will really help. Okay, so you can still expand this moving forwards, right? As I mentioned, I showed you some examples of some really good ones. Okay, it has to be clear in terms of what. So again, the idea behind this is how you want others to see you. Okay, so just make sure that you perhaps develop and work on that moving forwards. Okay, so next step, guys. Okay, once you have, again, once you already have that mission statement or you already have a position, right? So that's basically your positioning. Okay, so we already know, for example, where Kayla is positioning herself in the creative industry. We already know, for example, where some of you are positioning yourself in industry. Now let's have a look at your target audience. Okay, so we need to think about the people who, when I say people, it's basically individuals and also companies or organizations that will benefit from your unique combination of skills and intangibles. Okay, so we need to look for those people that will benefit from your skills. When I say people, I also mean organizations or companies or studios. So three things, right? For our target audience, we want to look for people or entities that will benefit from both your skills and intangibles. Worst case scenario, we can look for people that will benefit from your intangibles. Maybe your skills isn't up to par yet in terms of what they want, but your intangibles are there. Okay, so again, these are perhaps the people that we're looking for, right? The companies or perhaps the organizations we're looking for. What we don't want, though, and what we want to avoid are people who don't really value your skills and your intangibles, because that will be very toxic. Okay, so again, these are probably the targets that you want to think about, right? People, organizations that will really benefit from your unique combination of skills and intangibles. Okay, so with that said, what are we looking for? Okay, this is the hard part. This is probably where you need to start looking and researching. Okay, who are the people that can really benefit you? So perhaps let's have a look at some of the examples here. Okay, so for example, Kayla might have a pretty good idea already in terms of which companies or which clients will really benefit from her unique combination of skills. So see, it might be companies, it might be organizations, it might be individuals, right? So that's good. It might be clear. For example, for Jeffrey, again, it might be. Are you UX, Jeffrey? You're UX, right? Yeah. So basically, looking at it, you want to look for companies or individuals that are into minimalist, simple designs. So, and again, that are also really so maybe this one we can definitely expand that so we can specify that a bit more. But yeah, exactly, right? And maybe companies that are also hiring, they really want to hire high achievers and students who really did well with high distinctions in their grades, right? So those are like the people that Jeffrey perhaps are really looking for. And again, similar to Vitor and similar to Wind and similar to Adam Sathita as well, okay? So for Sathita, it's passion for bringing ideas to life. So basically, that's conceptualizing. Is that correct? So you like concept work? So 3D and 2D? Okay. Now, I guess, so the idea is that, so you also want, so basically what you're branding yourself as someone who can take a story, do everything there from modeling, concept development, story development, and then all the way to final animation. Is that what you're saying? Okay. So basically being able to take a story, start to finish, and then complete that. So maybe something like a TVC or something like, a YouTube content where you can take a story. Okay, I like that as well. Okay, great. So see, now you have a pretty clear idea, right? Who you're looking for. When I say looking for, the type of organization and people that would really benefit from what you're, I guess, trying to provide. Okay. So with that said, guys, okay, let me just turn this on. Okay. So what do I recommend? How do you find those people? Okay. This is going to be, unfortunately, a combination of, let's see if I have it here. Nope. So this is, unfortunately, guys, a combination of primary research and secondary research. So if you guys are familiar, primary research is just talking to people who are in, or interviewing people who are in industry. And for the UX people, you know this, primary research, right? Or it can be secondary research as well. Meaning, have a look at websites and have a look at so Seek, for example, is really good. LinkedIn, so websites, books, journals, etc. Okay. Okay. So just checking. Looks like I accidentally deleted that slide. So how do you go about doing this? Okay. So my recommendation, guys, is to just look at industry first. Okay. Have a look or study the industry you want to be in. It's sometimes relatively straightforward. So for example, there's government and industry reports that you can access online. So for example, if you're in games, this is an example of a report. Maybe not that. Okay. So for example, if you're UX, okay? So this is an industry report for UX. Basically, it gives you an idea of how many companies out there, let's say in Australia or in a particular region. So again, these are reports, right? Some of them you can find that online. Some of them you can find that on websites. Seek, for example, has a report as well. So maybe Adobe even has a report. Okay. So digital trends, for example. Okay. So meaning what companies, so you know what? Let me just Google in. So I just downloaded those stuff, but let me just perhaps give you guys an idea. So if I just look for, okay, let's say games, for example, games, report, industry report, Australia. Okay. So maybe this one. Maybe this. Okay. So again, see, notice that it just gives you some ideas, right? In terms of how big the industry is. So for example, this one. This particular one gives you an idea of revenue employment. Okay. So notice that for game studios in Australia, okay, they only, so for example, in Victoria, they have 41% of their hires are full-time. In Tasmania, it's 1%. And then you have in New South Wales, for example, so it appears like in New South Wales, they hire more freelancers than they do full-time work. And again, it just gives you an idea, right, of the industry out there. Okay, what are they hiring? Who are they hiring as well? Are they hiring, people? Are they hiring? I guess there's even gender diversity there. Are they hiring, modelers? Are they hiring texture artists? All that stuff. Okay. So again, first step you need to do. It doesn't really matter what report. The important thing is to just understand your industry first. Okay. Know what the industry is, know how big it is, know how many studios, for example, are out there. So, for example, Kayla is talking about, possible clients. So, how big is that client market in whatever region you're in? right? So for example, if you want to look at, let's say, potential game studios, okay, look at the industry first, see what the big picture is, meaning how many big studios are out there, how many smaller studios are out there, okay? Once you know the industry, you can perhaps start looking at individual companies and organizations, okay? So the way to do that, no way around it. It's really just primary research and secondary research. So maybe you can have a look at companies like Seek or websites like Seek or LinkedIn, and then just have a look at perhaps potential companies out there. Okay? So once you have that, what you can do is you can start listing them down. And the good thing is we do have an industry liaison officer here, meaning we actually have a list of companies and studios in Australia, and that might be a good starting point for you. And meaning that means that you can just perhaps, right, talk to our industry liaison. Maybe you can ask for a list of, studios that Torrance is working with, and perhaps, that becomes your starting point, right? And the reason why you want that is you want to have a look at those studios. So for example, you have a you looked at the studio. I know Animal Logic is popular, but there's also, let's say, Flying Bark. Okay. The reason why this is important, guys, is because you know the industry. Now you start seeing the studios. You can have a look at the studios now. The reason why you want to have a look at the studios is you want to have a look at what they are about, what their potential culture is. Look at who they might not be hiring now, but look at what type of artists they're actually hiring. Okay, so see, guys, this particular studio, they actually do a lot of anime type stuff. Okay, so 2D stuff and 3D stuff. Okay, so I'm looking at it. See, they actually, so from what I'm getting, they do different types of genres. So perhaps, I'm not sure, perhaps this studio values artists that can jump from one genre to another genre. Okay? And then I'll have a quick look. Maybe they're not hiring yet, but it doesn't matter. I'm just looking at what they're doing and the type of artists they're actually, so for example, jobs. Or, you know what? Our people actually works really well. Okay? Again, I'm just taking a look at, what type of studio they are. Okay? So for example, I look at, let's say, their head of CG. Some of them will even reply if you just send a message and saying hello. But see, I'm just looking at that studio, right? I'm just perhaps exploring what that studio is, etc. Okay? So what I want you guys to do, perhaps, okay, is, again, you end up creating, maybe it's 10, maybe it's 20. You just come up with, let's say, 10 to 20 combined, right? Companies, individuals, and organizations that perhaps that you're interested with. Or it doesn't even have to be interested with, just interesting for you, okay? So what do I mean by individuals? It might be potential clients. It might be thought leaders. It might be, recruiters, okay? So companies, some of them might use recruiters, and those recruiters are individuals. So maybe I'll have a look at those individuals. Organizations, maybe it's a 3D organization, maybe it's a UX organization, maybe it's an important organization because that might allow me to expand my network, okay? So as a start, my recommendation is just come up with 10 organizations, okay? 10, sorry, not organization, but 10 entities, okay? You don't have to put it here, but can you guys just give me, so next step for us, can you guys just create, so green for company, I understand it's a combination of, it's going to be, I guess, a combination of UX, film, and 3D students here, or even design students. Can you just come up with list of companies? I'll show you what you need to do here. But for now, can you just come up with companies here? So maybe an example is Flying Bark, perhaps. Okay. So can you guys, maybe let's come up with 15. Okay. So again, if you know individuals, so just duplicate, select this, Control D, and then that duplicates that. Okay, we'll have a look at what you can do here. Okay, but for now, can you just it's just random. It's totally fine. Okay, I'm just going, for example, that's animal logic. That is, uh, I like using LinkedIn, but I can't access it from here. LinkedIn might have a lot of individuals there. Okay, so it might be, for UX students here, Combank actually hires a lot of UX professionals, if that's your thing. Okay, so Combank, and then maybe it's, I don't know, if you prefer smaller studios, it might be something like, I don't know, Studio One. I'm just randomly putting studios there. Okay. So sorry, that's individuals. Geez, sorry guys. So this is supposed to be companies. So that's Animal Logic. And then individuals, that might be uh, uh, so James, for example, who is a UX recruiter. So he's a real person, right? So, okay. And then maybe it's organizations, film, screen, New South Wales. Okay. Organizations, perhaps city of, uh, it might be, uh, I don't know, UNESCO, for example. I don't know. I'll just put it in. Okay. And maybe I'll put one more. And maybe companies, I'll just put in, uh, let's say, film, studio, doesn't really matter, film studio one. Okay? Okay. So I think we have enough there. Okay? So what I'm suggesting with regards to how you do things is just list companies, individuals, organizations that are interesting for you. Okay? So just come up with, let's say, 10 to perhaps 20 entities for this assessment, right? Okay? It might be 10, it might be 20, but you want a lot of them. Okay? The reason is the next step, right? Is you just want to perhaps organize them. Okay? There's a lot of ways you can organize them. And the reason why you're organizing them is because, let me just have a quick look. Okay. And the reason why you want to organize them, there it is. So as I mentioned, right? Primary research, so you can talk to people, or secondary research. But the reason why you want to organize them, guys, is you can perhaps focus your efforts on specific segments rather than trying to please everyone. Okay? So my recommendation in terms of how you organize or how you create market segments or target segments for your audience is to perhaps maybe use this as starting point. Again, it's just a starting point. You're not really, you can divide it to whatever, method you want later on. But for me, right? For the middle bit, I think that probably the most interesting for you are the companies or individuals who actually have an immediate demand already, meaning they actually are actively searching for artists or for 3D artists or for UX designers or for film, film people or film or video professionals because they have a project or they have an opening. Okay, so that's what I mean. So the middle bit here are companies, individuals, and organizations who already have an immediate demand. Okay? If they also have a high match, meaning they match your skill set, they match the stuff that you're really good at. So for example, if they're really, they're a baking company that actually has a need for UX designers because they're creating interactive ingredients or interactive recipes, then that's a perfect match, right? If you're actually into baking, for example. Okay? And high preference, meaning if you prefer working for those companies. So my recommendation, right, is once you have a list of all your, companies, individuals from your research, you want to perhaps organize them. So for example, you know what? This company is really actively hiring now. So what I'll do is I'll put them in the middle. Why? Because they are immediately hiring. They're a good match for me, and I really want to work there. Okay? So the reason why that's important, guys, is because obviously, right? We might want to concentrate on the companies directly there. Okay? Because there might be companies like this. You might really want to work for them. It's really matching in terms of your skill set and what they're looking for. But the problem is there's no opening. Okay? So maybe they have future demands. Maybe it's not this year, maybe it's next year, or it's not this month, maybe it's 3 months from now that they'll have an opening for you. Okay? But you still want to perhaps think about them or focus your marketing skills or promotional skills to those companies. But with regards to your efforts, you probably want to concentrate on the ones here in the middle. So for example, if Memorizely, for example, if that's a company I really want to work for, I'll put it there. Maybe it's City of Melbourne, for example. I know from my research, City of Melbourne is actually looking actively, right? They're looking every month, they're looking for new artists, or they're looking for organizations that will help them in their campaigns. So it might not be this month, but it's every month. They regularly look for people. So I'll put it there. Okay? Another thing is perhaps it's going to be Mecca. I'm not sure what Mecca is, but maybe Mecca, for example, is an organization, or maybe it's UNESCO. Maybe UNESCO is an organization that constantly looks for video professionals that can help them with their campaigns. Okay? Maybe that's something that I can put here. Okay? Now, if it's something that from your research, maybe you like them, maybe they're a great match, and maybe you also really like working for them, but they currently don't have an opening yet. Maybe they won't have an opening in the next few months, but you know what? Maybe it's next year, or maybe it's 6 months from now, maybe it's 7 months, or you know what? Maybe they're just looking for potential collaborators in the future. I'll put those companies here. So see? So maybe it's going to be Animalogic. Maybe they're not hiring yet. Maybe it's Macquarie Group. Maybe they're not hiring yet. But you know what? I want to keep them in my sites. Maybe it's Screen New South Wales. Maybe it's Massive Monster. Okay? So again, see guys, maybe these companies, I really like them, but they're not really, they might not be a good match yet, or they might not be looking for designers. So I'll just place that there. And lastly, the last bit. If you're not familiar with their demand because you don't have any information, you're not sure if you're a good match, or you don't really have a lot of information for them, you still want them, as a potential collaborator or a target audience in the future or even the present, then you can just place that here. Okay, so maybe that, Mecca, maybe this one, and maybe this one. Okay? So does this make sense in terms of how we're trying to organize things? So we just create a list, maybe 10 to 20 different types of organization. It might be a client. It might be an organization. It might be a company. It might be, it might be just an example, guys. Okay? Maybe I'll just show you. Okay? Maybe, right? There's a fresh graduate in Torrance or in games that is building. So maybe let's just call him Andrew, for example. Okay? Maybe Andrew is creating his own studio and he's building, let's say, a game studio, startup. Okay? So game studio startup. So you like to perhaps engage or work with Andrew in the future, but he hasn't really started his game company yet, maybe in the next few months. So I'll just perhaps position him somewhere there. Okay? So is this making sense in terms of what we're trying, right? Again, in the middle, we want to put companies or organizations or individuals there that are already hiring, right? Or maybe not hiring, but are already actively looking for, or, is a really good match for your skills. It's really a company or an organization or individuals that you want to work with, or it might be, at the same time, immediate demand. Okay, meaning they're looking for people to collaborate with. They're looking for organizations or perhaps artists to hire. Okay, so is this making sense? Then we go outside where we don't not necessarily know what the demand is. Okay, and then maybe further out where we're not really sure about most of these things, but we want to keep them in our sights and we want to attract them in the future. Okay, so does this make sense for everyone? Just checking with the students here if that's making sense. Okay, all good? Makes sense? Okay, so let's just do this, I guess. Um, so perhaps let's do, okay. Okay, so looks like this is clear. Okay, so the reason why I want it this way, guys, is because you can now perhaps start focusing your efforts. You probably want to do most of your focusing on the core area, right? So these are the companies and individuals that actually are actively looking, a great match, and a high preference for you. So this is where you want to put most of your efforts in, okay? Those companies, okay? And at the same time, maybe it's the company. So it doesn't mean that you disregard others, but basically what I'm saying is if you have, let's say, 10 hours, okay, every week, you want to spend most of the time perhaps, if it means creating a resume, for example, for these specific companies, then you concentrate on the companies here first before you perhaps look at the companies or the organizations outside it. Because again, that's your immediate or that's your core, I guess, segment, if that makes sense. Okay. So once you have this, okay, your next step, okay, once you have this, your next step is to perhaps, similar to what we did in the first challenge, right? Just define who they are, okay? So I just want you to define who these people are, okay? Just create some sort of persona. The reason why we want a persona there is because we can perhaps create or modify our messaging and brand so it really targets that particular persona. So just an example, right? I'll just perhaps. So how this works, guys, is if you are using, for example, if you are using, I'll just show you how I did this. If you are using Miro, this one, I created a template. And for this, I just look for a template. I just look about me, okay? And see, that's an about me template. And then I'll just click on use template, okay? And then notice what happens there. See, it just plugs it in. It's just a starting point. I can just remove stuff I don't need. So for example, this one, I don't really need it. So delete. And then for example, this one, see, I don't need personal info. Maybe I don't need languages. I don't need those. Okay, just an example, right? And I can change the image there. Okay, so see, and I can even remove that. Okay, so see, that's how I did it, right? And I can even just select all of it and then just move it around. Okay, so this is how I created this one. Okay, for the next one, I think you can just do exactly the same thing. See, so you can use the same about me template and then just use that for building your, I guess, brand statement. And then for this, I think if I remember correctly, I just use a template and it's just target, I think. Target audience, I think. So not target audience, it's, I think it's concentric. There you go. So what's on your radar? So I use this template here. I just type in concentric because that's a concentric uh, whatever you call that slide, I guess, or concentric diagram. So I just use template. And then there it is, right? So this is the template. And then again, I just end up removing things I don't need. So there you go. And then there, right? So now that's my... Okay, and for this, I think it's target audience persona. So let's have a look. I think it's persona. So I just click on template, and I think that's persona. And I think I used audience persona, this one. So use template. You don't even have to use that. I'm just saying that, see? So once you have that template, you can just remove stuff you don't need. See? And now I have that. Okay? So, last thing, guys, and this is really the last topic for this. Okay? So, once you have your target market, okay, this is your target market. In fact, let me just put my target audience, right? So that's my target audience. Okay. So that's my target audience, basically, or target market. That's the companies I want to focus in. Okay. What I can do now is perhaps I'll concentrate on, let's say, 5 companies, right? So for example, City of Melbourne. Okay. I can just duplicate that. Okay. And I'm going to create a persona for that. Okay. So what do I mean by persona? Okay. So for City of Melbourne, for example, I want to know perhaps who the decision makers are. For example, if I want them as a client, for example, if they have a campaign, who usually are the decision makers for that? Okay. Is it, let's say, a particular person? Is it a group of people? So if it's a group of people, I'll just create a persona for all of that group. Or if it's just a single person, what I can do is maybe I'll come up with a fictional persona, right? It's just, again, I'm going to have a look at perhaps the LinkedIn page of that decision maker. Or again, it doesn't have to be specific. We're just creating a persona. Let's say this is the persona of the decision maker. Okay. So it doesn't even matter if it has a name, right? So we'll just call her, let's say, Olivia again. Okay, similar to what we did. Okay, and maybe her role is the decision maker. Okay, or maybe decision maker for maybe she's a producer. Okay, that decides which company to go with or which people to work with for a particular campaign for Melbourne, for example. Okay. So what are her expectations? So this is where perhaps you can have a look at LinkedIn or perhaps do your own research. What do you think her expectation is? Okay. Now you can do this by looking at the past projects or maybe looking at, again, research in terms of what those people usually look for. Maybe, this one, expectation, they look for socially conscious designers with a background in I don't know, sustainability, for example. Okay, so remember, guys, these are, again, what you can do is you can even have, I guess, let's see if ChatGPT can help us. Okay. So, for example, if I'm using ChatGPT for this, okay, can you help me create a persona for a decision maker, for example? Okay. Again, you want to check this with other sites as well. This is where your research will come in. For the UX students here, you understand what this means, right? It requires research. It requires interviews, for example. But for me, I'll just use this as a starting point because I don't have time to interview, right? This is just demonstration. Can you help me create a persona for a decision maker in Melbourne in the city Melbourne that decides on campaign of creative campaigns or creative information campaigns. Okay. And then from what I know, for example, that likes sustainability and uh, indigenous culture, for example. Okay, so let's have a look. Okay, so again, this is a good starting point. Again, I'm just using ChatGPT for this, but the idea is you actually look at job sites, right? What they're actually looking for. And that's easy to do. For example, if you go to Seek, you can easily see what they're looking for, stuff like that. You can get an identity in terms of what they're aiming for, what type of artist they want. Okay? So, can you concentrate on the designers they are looking for? Okay. So see, let's say cultural sensitivity and then storytelling and through design. Okay. So see guys, basically what I'm doing, right, is I'm just creating a persona. So it's Olivia, expectation. It might be storytelling through design. It might be it might be experience with motion graphics. Okay. And then it might be passionate about sustainability, innovative and trend savvy. So see, so I'll just put it here. Okay. So again, I'm creating the persona. I'm using ChatGPT, but the idea is for you guys to actually do the research, right? And it's relatively easy. So for example, if you have, let's say, flying bar, okay, and you're looking for the job itself, okay? So rigging TD. So see guys, see, it's easy. If you look at it, yes, they're looking for thorough understanding of, again, this is rigging, which is a more technical, compositing, rigging, animations. There, this one, senior 3D animator. Okay, I understand it's, but see, notice that about you, passionate animator. Okay, solid background in character and creature creation. What else? Collaboration is second nature. Okay, so collaboration, right? So see, for example, collaboration is second nature. So you don't, I mean, you don't have to use ChatGPT, right? I'm saying that the information is usually out there. Okay, proficiency in Maya and animation workflow. See, and let's look at other things. Previous experience in, of course, the senior, but let's have a look. Comfortable switching between stylized and there you go. Okay. There. Okay. So just an example, right? So again, the reason why we're doing this, okay, is so we can just see what their expectations are. We just, put a face on that organization, right? I know that the name is just trivial, okay? It's just a makeup person. But we're just trying to see what their expectations are. At the same time, we're going to check where we can actually see them. Okay? So maybe for City of Melbourne, for example, where they're at, maybe they're in LinkedIn. Okay? Maybe we can access them or Olivia constantly goes to Behance. Maybe Olivia goes to or uh, museum organization, for example. Or maybe she attends a particular exhibit. Okay? Or maybe they use their own website, maybe Melbourne website, to look for talent. Okay? And maybe looking at it, they also advertise and seek. Or, okay, just an example. Okay? So see guys, what I'm doing now is I'm just trying to lay out, right? Give that particular entity a persona. The reason why I want to do that is so I can create a strategy, right? Specific for that, I guess, persona. Okay. So how can I attract and how can I potentially, um, potentially get myself seen by that person? Okay. So that's obvious, right? I might need to create my LinkedIn page. But in my LinkedIn page, I need to think about perhaps showcasing my passion for sustainability. That means I might need to add articles or share articles or like articles. Again, I'm not suggesting that you become a totally different person. So if you're not really into sustainability, you can't really fake it, right? But the idea behind it is for you guys to perhaps, uh, you know, um, already start developing a strategy. Okay. So I think that's it. Okay. So do you guys get it in terms of what our process is? So number one, right? We start off by really exploring who you are, right? What your goals are. Next, you want to create some sort of brand or mission statement. Okay? So the mission statement, you can even add other things here. So what is it you want others to see you as? Okay? So what is your brand statement? Once you have your brand statement, list the companies you really want to work with or has a really good, I guess, match in terms of what your passions are and what your brand is. Okay? Once you have those list of companies, organize them so that perhaps the most immediate ones are in here in the middle, and then you have, I guess, the less immediate ones outside, and maybe others that you're not familiar with, you put it here. Okay? So once you have that though, concentrate on the middle bit. Just this, and that. Concentrate on at least 5. Okay, so ideally you want to have 5 there. Okay, once you have 5 there, what you want to do is you want to create a persona for every single one of those 5. Again, the ideal scenario is you create a persona for all of them. But for this particular class, I just want you to concentrate on the middle bit. Let's concentrate our efforts on the immediate ones. Okay, so it's this one. It's going to be that. It's going to be UNESCO, for example. It's going to be Animal Logic. And it's going to be Screen New South Wales. Okay? So once you have that, then you can create a persona for them. Okay? So I already have, let's say, City of Melbourne. I'll just create another one. Let's say for UNESCO. Then another one for Animal Logic. Okay, and then another one for, let's say, this one. Okay. And then lastly, another one here. So what happens, everyone, is that becomes your first assessment. Okay, so that's your first assessment, right? Meaning I'll just perhaps do that. Okay. So see, that's all you need. Okay. And now that's part of your first assessment. We need to think about what your strategies are, right? To actually address those specific personas. And we'll talk about that next week. Okay? So for now, what I want you guys to do is complete this stage of your strategy, right? So using either Miro, Figma, I recommend Miro, define your position, define your target markets, okay? Similar to what we did, okay? Develop 5 personas for each of those core markets. So when I say core markets, I'm talking about the middle, right? And then describe where these personas can be found, meaning where, right? If you have a look here, see, we're trying to define where they can be found. Okay, are they in LinkedIn? Are they in Behance? Are they, somewhere else? Okay, so this is where perhaps some of you might want to have a look at LinkedIn. Some of you might want to have a look at other websites to give you that information. Okay, so I'm going to share that here in Teams. Okay, so what I'll do, guys, is I'm going to create a post. So for the students joining us here, you have the rest of the class to finish this, right? So for the students joining us here in Ultimo, we have the rest of the time to work on this. For the students joining us online, you have until the end of the week to complete this. So what I'll do is I'm going to just give you guys an announcement. Week 2 challenge, okay, at DPO. And let's have a look at so next week we're going to talk about actually developing strategies, right? Specific strategies for the individual personas that we're trying to target. But again, this is what you need to do for this week first. Okay. What I want you to do is just share your share your Miro link here. Okay. And just to give you guys an idea, so an example, here is mine. Okay. So this is just an example. Obviously, it's not complete, but what I'll do is I'm going to share my Miro page. Okay. Share, copy, copy board, and then I'll just paste it here. Okay. So for some of you who are new to Miro, there's I can send some resources, but it's really relatively straightforward. Just create your own first. Okay, so what do I mean by that, guys? Okay, what I mean is, see, just I think it's plus, create new, and then just create board. Okay, and then just give it a name. So see, it's an empty board, and then just give it a name. Rename my brand, for example. Okay, then you can start adding templates, right? Remember, templates. And I started off with an about me template. Okay, and I'll just use the template. And again, that's just your starting point. You can always remove stuff you don't need. So see, I can remove that. Okay, and then I can remove other things too. Okay, so, and then you can add a text there. So this is me. And then this is my, so this is my positioning next. Okay, so positioning. Etc. Right? And then remember what I did? I think I just use a target persona for this. So I think co-centric, right? Okay, co-centric. And then I just use this, use template. And I just came up with my list of companies. And then afterwards, I think I just use target. So target persona, sorry. Persona. And I think I used this one. Audience persona. Use template. And then there you go. Okay. And see, with that, that's really all you need at this stage. So for the second, for week 2 challenge, just do that. You should be okay. And then just share it, right? Just share, copy the link, and then share that in our Teams page. So I think that's it. So the students here will continue doing their work. For if you're joining us online, that means you have the end of the week to perhaps work on that stuff. So just checking with the students online for Akash and Adam, is that clear in terms of what you need to do? So let's see. Okay, great. So looking forward to seeing your work, everyone. For the students joining us online, again, concentrate on the reputation or the personal brand or the message, right? It's your mission statement. Then companies, let's concentrate on at least 5 companies in the middle. Then from the 5 companies there, you don't have to do it for everything, just the 5 or 6 in the middle of our target. And then we just define our personas there. Okay. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to stop the recording now. Okay. And then I'll see you guys for the students joining us online. See you guys next week.